Hello and welcome to lesson 4 of week 6. In this lesson, we are going to look at combinators in CSS. My name is Mildred. A combinator establishes or explains the relationship between two selectors. In CSS, we can style an element based on its relationship with another element on the page. I am going to put an element in a container. So I'll write a paragraph within a div tag. And this paragraph, I'll say I'll put another paragraph. I'll put a paragraph just after the heading. Then after the div tag, I'm going to put one. I'm going to refresh my web page and we have all of the paragraphs on the page. Now we have the first type of combinator, which we call the descendant selector. For a descendant selector, we write the elements with a space between them. And what this means is that apply this style. Let's change the text color to red. Make the text color red for all paragraphs that are within a div tag. The descendant selector applies the style to the descendant of an element. In this case, P is the descendant of the div tag. We have a paragraph just after the heading. This is a descendant of the body element and a sibling of the head element, but it is not a descendant of a div tag. There are two paragraphs, the first and the second paragraphs within a div tag, and these two are descendants of a div tag. There is a paragraph after the div tag, and this is not a descendant of a div tag. When I refresh my web page, we are going to have a red text color of the first and second paragraph because they are within the div tag. And so this is how we use the descendant selector. There is another type of selector we call the child selector, and this uses a greater than sign. So I'm going to try to explain the relationship between the div and the italic sign here. I want to make the background color red or yellow, let's say yellow, for every I tag that is a child of the div tag. And how do we say an element is a child of another element? This body element has a heading. This heading is a child of the body. This paragraph is a child of the body. This div is a child of the body. But the paragraphs are within the div. The paragraphs are children of div and they are not direct children of the body. Now we want to have an I tag that is going to be a child of the div. So let's say I here, and we'll put this is the first child of the div tag. We'll put another I. This is the last child of the div tag. Close I. I'm going to put an I around this second here. Now this italics for this second is not a child of the div tag. It is a descendant but not a child. So we are going to have this background color of yellow applied to this I tag that is a child of the div and this I tag that is a child of a div. And I'm going to put another I outside here so that we can see the effect properly. This is not a child of the div tag. I will save this, refresh my web page, and I have the first child of the div tag and the last child of the div tag with the background color of yellow. So we use the greater than sign to explain the relationship, and we are saying that we want this style applied to every I tag that is a child of the div tag. We have another selector that we can use, and this selector is the adjacent sibling selector, and we use a plus sign for the adjacent sibling selector. Now let's use the bold tag for this, and let's say what we want to do with this is to change the text color to blue. So I'll use different styles so you can see the illustration better. What adjacent means, it means immediately following. So we want to apply this text color of blue to every bold tag that is immediately following a div tag. So adjacent sibling means a B tag that immediately follows a div tag. So I'm going to change this I to B, and I'll write this is an adjacent sibling, and I'm going to change this to a B, and I'll say this is a sibling but not adjacent. So adjacent means immediately following. And so if I refresh my page now, we should have the text color of blue for the first bold tag, but for the second it's not going to be blue because it doesn't immediately follow the div tag. And so I'm going to refresh my web page, and we'll have the adjacent sibling in blue and the other text that is not an adjacent sibling remain in black. We have a fourth type of combinator, which is called the general sibling selector, and we use a tilde sign to illustrate that. The general sibling selector applies the style to all of the tags that are siblings. They have the same parent. So let's say we want to use a strong tag here, and we want to say that we want to change the background color to blue of every strong tag that is a sibling of the div tag. Or let's just use P, div tilde P. So every P tag that is a sibling of the div tag. Now I'm going to change this to P, and I'll change this to P. I'll change this to P, and change this to P. So we have this. This first P tag is not a sibling. These two P tags here are not siblings of the div tag, but they are children. After the div tag, we have two other P tags that are siblings of the div tag because they all have the same parent. And so it's going to apply to every of the P tag that comes after the div tag and not before. Now notice that we have a P tag before the div tag. Now we are going to call, we are not going to call this a sibling. The style is not going to apply to this P because it comes before the div. The general sibling selector applies to the tag after the div tag. And so when I go to my web page and I refresh, I will have those two with the background color of blue. And so these are the combinators we have in CSS, and this can get really complicated. If you play around with it and try them, you will see the do's and don'ts of using the combinators, and it is going to come in handy as we go advanced and as we want to apply styles to particular elements within other elements. And so in summary, the combinators just tries to explain the relationship between two selectors, and it helps us to apply styles, or he gives us a better way to apply styles to elements when we do not want it applied to that particular element in general, but that particular element under certain conditions. And this is where we end week 6. Next week we are going to go deeper as we look at forms and how to collect form data in HTML and CSS.